So in actuality, love that is real lies at the heart of all relationships. And it requires compassion, acceptance, forgiveness, and release. If, for example, we hold on to what happened in our past, it can color our experiences in the now moment. Kind of like rose-tinted spectacles, only in reverse. If we bring the shadow figures from the past with us, it can filter our view of what is in front of us in this moment. And it's important to feel the emotions whenever a relationship does shift. Things like sadness, grief, anxiety. But it's also important to release any and all negative energy. It is only when we are at peace with our brothers and sisters that we can find peace within ourselves. When we glimpse spiritual perfection within someone, we are able to see the truth of who they are as spiritual beings. And unfortunately, when this happens, our ego goes to work. And it gets busy shifting our perception of that truth. So we begin to believe that those around us are flawed. We begin to entertain the idea that maybe we are not whole, perfect, and complete. So we start looking for answers in the material world, or what I like to call the land of effect. So maybe we will buy a new perfume. Maybe we will buy a new car. Maybe we'll go back to school and get a college degree. But the insatiable emotional needs that seem to never get fulfilled, even though they're advertised like crazy on television, don't get fulfilled because of the fact that we believe somewhere deep inside that we're not worthy. So how can we look at love differently? Well, you just heard Daniel Nahmod sing, "It's up to me to give of my heart. No one else can tell me to start. But once I decide to change my mind, God will show me how." And in A Course in Miracles, they teach that it is not our job to seek for love, but to seek for all the barriers against its coming. So if we think of love like a rose bush, the soil is the creative medium through which Spirit creates the plant. The stems are friendship. The thorns nudge us to grow. And the blossoms embody the romance and the beauty of life. Because our ego is addicted to sensation, our focus automatically goes to the blossom. But what's important to understand is that without the stem, the soil, and the thorns, the blossom or the beauty can't come into fruition. So blossoms, like relationships, come and go. But if the plant is well tended and the foundation is strong, then new blossoms will appear. And this is true in the dynamics of any relationship. The support of the stem, the growth of the flower leads to the beauty of life. So the question is whether when our relationships end, we can recognize within them the seeds of rebirth. Because we are all part of the one, all of our relationships are really eternal. So how someone shows up for us is ultimately connected to how we choose to show up for them. Can we operate from a higher spiritual perspective while we're living within this third dimensional reality or the material world? Do we need the perfume? Do we need the deodorant? Some days we probably do. Other days maybe not so much. But when we use the power of the mind to activate the heart, we play an important role in creating the world around us. And sometimes the person who gives you the most aggravation is simply reflecting back at you a false belief that you're holding about yourself. What we withhold from others, we withhold from ourselves. What we give to others, we give to ourselves. And Marianne Williamson, in her book, Return to Love, which is what my talks have been based on this month, says that our soulmates are human beings. And we, just like them, are going through the normal processes of growth. So unconditional love is an energy within an infinite continuum. And we are all affected by other people's lovelessness, but only to the extent to which we judge them for it. All of our perceptions of what is wrong or who has wronged us are like the projection of a bad movie. There isn't any light of love coming through the projector. And because our ego advocates separation, it loves this. Its very survival depends upon us edging God out. That's the acronym for ego. And this week, I was given a great gift. I got to see the ballet Sleeping Beauty. And it was just spectacular. And it's a great metaphor for the relationship between the ego and the divine. The evil witch, Maleficent, who is filled with jealousy, represents our ego. And she curses Princess Aurora to die on her 16th birthday. But thanks to Aurora's guardian fairies, she only falls to sleep. And Sleeping Beauty represents the Christed consciousness within each of us. When our actions aren't authentic, our Sleeping Beauty is that Christ consciousness asleep. But Maleficent can never destroy it. The love inside of us never dies. It just sleeps for a little while. And when the prince arrives, his kiss reminds us of who we are and why we have come here. Daniel Nabod sang, it's up to us to dance down that road. And when the prince leapt onto the stage at Popejoy, he literally hung in the air. And there were gasps throughout the audience. And when the princess did 4 complete pirouettes in a row with 4 different men walking around her, it brought tears to my eyes. It was just so beautiful. So before that prince can save the damsel in distress, he has to slay all the dragons that are around her castle. And the dragons are our demons. Our belief in betrayal, our need to control, our attachment to a certain agenda, the way things need to look. And this is brilliant on the part of the ego, who is fighting for survival, because it convinces us to deny love to others as well as to ourselves. But have no fear. Sleeping Beauty says, "From this slumber you shall wake. When true love's kiss the spell shall break." So Prince Charming represents the Holy Spirit, that true love that arrives to awaken us to the love of God. And he or she comes in various costumes and guises to remind us to ask ourselves the question, am I willing to see this differently? Am I willing to see who I am in the midst of all the drama that is unfolding around me? Love is my decision. The experience of love requires taking responsibility for our choices. It requires embodying a greater conscious awareness of what we are creating around us. There is no problem in any situation that faith will not resolve. Faith is believing that there is a power for good in the universe that is greater than we are, that we can use. Faith is believing that the universe is on our side. Faith is the bridge between where I am and where God is taking me. And the bridge that is pictured here is the Navajo Bridge. As you pass the Vermilion Cliffs and you enter into the Marble Canyon, the view from there is absolutely spectacular, as you can see from the photograph that Jane took. And if you want to really connect with God in a deeper way, Mother Nature is a fabulous place to do that. But it's up to us, again, to stand on that bridge, right here and right now. Whenever we pollute our relationships with unloving thoughts, or we destroy them with false accusations, we threaten our collective emotional survival. Emotional pain doesn't come from the love we weren't giving in the past. It comes from the love that we aren't giving in the present. Only what you have not given can be lacking in any situation. So we help another person access their highest and best by going within to access our own highest and best. And that is what is meant by the word namaste. When you are in that place and I am in that place, we are one. So growth comes from focus upon our own lessons, not on anyone else's. That is simply the blame game. And Marianne Williamson says in A Return to Love, we are to look to ourselves, our own lessons, thoughts, and behavior in order to find peace with another person. And you may have noticed that sometimes life seems to get worse before it gets better. And this can happen when we're willing to do the deeper work. Frustration builds. Sometimes there's even an explosion. An outburst of emotional energy doesn't necessarily have to be thought of as negative or unspiritual. The real work begins in the presence of deep honesty. Marianne Williamson says, the path of the spiritual warrior endures the sharp pains of self-discovery, rather than choosing to take the dull pain of unconsciousness that would last the rest of our lives. So acknowledgement of disappointments must be processed and forgiven before we can celebrate a new beginning. People naturally blossom into their highest potential, just like the rose opens when it's ready, and not before. And sometimes we need to feel the prick of that thorn in order to give us the momentum to stand in the truth of who we are. When we hold ourselves separate from people and we wait for them to earn our love, what we're really waiting for is the love of ourselves. So it's time to stop fighting the world as it is and start loving it instead. Shift our focus to a more gentle perspective. And I want to share something with you this morning. This is my prayer pouch. This is where the prayer request forms ultimately wind up. And a couple of weeks ago, we did an exercise together where we filled out all of these lovely spiritual mind treatment request forms. And I used the example of love is. God is love. We are the love of God. And so the majority of these requests that came in, probably about 95%, were focused on love. And after working on them for about a week, I checked in with Carol and with Reverend Irene to see if anything had shifted in their experience. And Reverend Irene shared that she's been working on attracting in a loving relationship. And so a new opportunity for that has presented itself in her world. And Carol shared that she felt a shifting within our center, which is just so lovely that I don't even know how to put it into words. But what I can tell you is that it affected me very deeply, and that I'm very grateful that each and every one of us are willing to be here, to stand in that love, and to know who we really are as spiritual beings. The common thread of divine love is at the center of everything. Get in there. The love of God doesn't change with form or circumstance. So finding our authentic selves is about expressing our feelings, doing the work, being willing to ask the question, God, show me what it is I'm not seeing. And then love becomes your decision. Thank you, and namaste.